Have you ever heard that saying, snitches get stitches?
Yeah, I think we all have, right?
Yeah.
But like, what happens when we're talking about whistleblowing? Like in an actual office, not just on the street.
Well, we've got this really interesting story that kind of tackles that question, right? It's called Suje1, and there's also this image, Kotul Da'a, which means like three friends reporting, something like that.
Yeah, and what's cool is these sources, they don't give us some big sweeping view of corruption. They zoom in on a really specific situation, and you see how these people react, right? When it's not just scary, when their actual jobs are at stake.
And it gets pretty messy, I gotta say. We're gonna break it all down for you, figure out what these characters are thinking, why they do what they do, and hopefully, we'll all learn something about how power works in these everyday settings. So, to start off, picture this. We're in a work unit, just regular office folks, but there are some big changes coming down from the city level.
Big shakeups, yeah. And into this mix, we've got our three main players.
Oh.
Old Kian, Old Sun, and Old Zhao. These guys are tight, they hang out, drink together, the whole 9 yards.
Right, so they're comfortable with each other, know the office gossip, all that. Then old Keen, he drops this bombshell. He says, hey, with all this change happening, why don't we report the bureau chief? And he thinks this guy's corrupt. Classic whistleblower situation.
Seems straightforward enough at first.
Ah.
And Old Sun and Old Zhao, they're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Old Sun even suggests that Old Zhao should be the one to write the actual report. We don't know exactly why. Maybe he thinks Old Zhao's a better writer, or maybe he just wants to be a little less directly involved.
And old Zhao's like, whoa, hold on. I'm super busy with my kid. No way I have time for this. But get this, he's not being totally honest. Turns out, he actually starts writing the report in secret.
This is where it gets juicy. I mean, it tells you something that he starts doing it, even though he said no. Like,
Yeah.
there's that part of him that thinks, this report, this taking action,
Yeah.
it matters. And he goes pretty far with it, too. 8,000 characters. That's a serious effort.
But then something happens. He gets cold feet, starts freaking out about his wife finding out, the whole what if this blows up in my face thing. And he does something pretty drastic, tears up the whole report. All that work gone just like that because he's scared of the consequences.
It's a total internal battle, right?
Yeah.
Like, why should he be the one taking the biggest risk? That's got to be going through his head. And in the end, fear wins out. He hides all the pieces of the report, tries to pretend it never happened.
So the report's gone, the plan's dead, but the bureau chief, he's still there. Now things start to get really interesting between our three friends, Old Keen, Old Sun, and Old Zhao. The bureau chief calls Old Sun into his office. You'd think, oh, here comes the confrontation, but that's not what happens at all.
Nope. Instead, the bureau chief's all friendly, asking about Old Sun's family, his kids. It's like this little act of kindness, but it throws Old Sun completely off.
Totally. I mean, he's heard the rumors about the bureau chief, affairs, shady money stuff. But suddenly he's like, wait, maybe this guy isn't so bad after all. It shows you how a personal connection can really complicate what seems like a clear-cut ethical situation.
For sure. And it's not just Old Sun. The bureau chief meets with his wife and kids separately, and then does the same thing with Old Kian and Old Zhao. It's like he's going out of his way to connect with each of them individually, almost like he's trying to smooth things over,
Right. So despite the rumors, Old Sun's starting to feel almost loyal to this guy. Then they all meet up for drinks like they always do. You'd think the whole failed report thing would be the big elephant in the room.
But no, they don't talk about it at all. Like, it's just too awkward, too risky to bring up. All that initial momentum to do something, it's totally gone.
Wow, so they just bury it. But the changes from the city, those do happen. And along with that, they send investigators to check things out, get a feel for what people are thinking in the work units.
And they go right to the source. They ask Old Sun, Old Kian, and Old Zhao, point blank, what do you think of Bureau Chief Bai? Talk about a moment of truth.
And guess what they say? Total 180 from their original plan. They all chime in, oh, Bureau Chief Bai, he's a great leader, the best. Crazy how external pressure and maybe those little acts of kindness earlier can totally flip someone's public stance, right?
It's wild.
Yeah.
And it seems to have worked for the bureau chief. He ends up getting promoted to deputy mayor. The very guy they were going to report is now even more powerful. Talk about irony.
I know, outwardly they're all singing his praises, but the story tells us that privately, Old Sun's feeling pretty conflicted. He's like, man, I was right to be worried about this guy. He's probably even regretting not going through with the report in the first place.
Yeah, he's got that I told you so feeling, but it's mixed with relief that he didn't get in trouble. Then things get even more twisted. The new deputy mayor calls Old Son and invites him over to his house.
Imagine getting that call right. You'd feel pretty special. It's like his loyalty is being rewarded. But then, Old Son makes a really bad decision. He decides to use this opportunity to report Old Zhao to the deputy mayor.
Yeah, he throws him totally under the bus, tries to make himself look good, like he was always the one who knew what was up, and old Zhao was trying to frame him or something. Pure self-interest, no loyalty to his old friend at all.
And the deputy mayor, he's not bullying it. The story says his face gets all dark, like he's seriously displeased. It's clear Old Son's little scheme has backfired big time.
Totally. And it gets worse. The deputy mayor invites old Can and old Zhao over separately, too.
Mhm.
He knows something's up, and he wants to get to the bottom of it. He brings up the whole reporting plan with each of them.
So, what happens? They all start pointing fingers. Each one trying to make themselves look innocent, saying they were always on the deputy mayor's side. It's a complete collapse of their original alliance. Everyone for themselves now.
And the consequences are huge. The whole work unit gets restructured, and anyone who's seen as a problem, including Old Sun, Old Hien, and Old Zhao, they all get transferred out.
And it's not random. The story specifically says that the deputy mayor ordered those transfers. Old Son's attempt to get ahead by betraying his friends, it ended up ruining all of them.
It's brutal. And the story makes it clear that they all know Old Sun's report to the deputy mayor is what sealed their fate. Their original plan, their hesitation, and then their selfish actions, it all led to this really bad ending.
Yeah, a total mess. And the story ends with Old Son saying something like, I knew all along and wanted to report it, but they held me back. It's just so ironic, considering what he did to Old Zhao. And this whole crazy story, it comes from a collection called National Best Short Stories.
Wow, it really makes you think. So we start with this idea of fighting corruption, right?
Mhm.
But then you see how fear can paralyze people, like with Old Zhao destroying that report, and how someone in power can use seemingly harmless gestures to influence others, like the bureau chief did with the families.
For sure. And it makes you wonder about trust in the workplace. These three guys, they were friends, but as soon as things got tough, they turned on each other. What does that say about how easily those bonds can break when your job's on the line?
And think about accountability. No one wanted to take responsibility for the report. They just kept passing the buck. And in the end, they all suffered because of it. I mean, how often did that happen in real life? People afraid to speak up, or they try to save themselves at the expense of others.
It's definitely something to consider, right? Have you ever seen something like this play out where you work? Like, where someone's initial good intentions got totally warped by fear or self-interest? How do these power dynamics affect the way people act?
I think the biggest takeaway here is about unintended consequences. Old Son thought he was being clever, but he ended up causing his own downfall and taking his friends down with him. It's a good reminder that trying to manipulate a situation for your own benefit can often blow up in your face, especially in these complex social settings. It leaves you wondering, where's the line between looking out for yourself and doing what's right? What happens when those two things collide?
Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See you then.